But right now it gives me a great pleasure to introduce our afternoon keynote and a good friend of .org community, Joseph Knecht. Since 1999, Joseph has been consulting, mentoring, and helping companies recognize the potential for disruption and swiftly innovate their way to survival and growth. With his edgy and inspirational style, audiences join Joseph as he shares the strategy to embrace disruption and swiftly reverse your businesses and be upset to a bright future of growth. So without further ado, Joseph Knecht.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everybody. And I do get the best slot of the day. I know a speaker might come up and say the slot right after lunch is the worst slot. I like to look at things more in a positive format, so we're going to have a little bit of fun this afternoon. A couple of quick things. One, before we get started, the format of this presentation is going to be different than the ones leading up today. It's going to be almost more like a workshop type of format, have you involved as we go through this journey together. Because we're going to get a little bit into the how. But before I get to that, a lot of the conversations earlier and today were about customer experience and usability and a lot of great topics to help drive you forward. So when I was having lunch, we were having a conversation, we were exchanging cards. And so I went into my briefcase and I pulled out, you might be familiar with these, as a traveler myself quite heavily. These are drink tickets from Southwest Airlines, if you're not familiar with that. As a frequent traveler, I have hundreds of these, which is probably a good sign, because if I had none, that might be a whole other issue that would be working through, especially on a lot of 5 a.m. flights that I'm on. But interesting, from a usability standpoint, they also hand out these. Now, this became quite problematic for me. Now, they look very similar. I am partially colorblind, or almost completely colorblind, or like I say, challenged. I'm color challenged. So when I look at these look pretty similar to me, right? So, funny little story, and then we'll get into the activity, right? Pretty much same size. You're sitting on a plane, you hand them out. So me and my lovely wife are going to Vegas to have a little fun for the weekend, 5:35 flight out of Omaha. It's a direct flight to Vegas, 2 hours and 10 minutes, and you're on the ground. And you're gaining 2 hours. It's a really good deal. Right? Really good deal. And then you land in Vegas, even better. Shitty on the way back, good on the way there. Totally good. And you're poor on the way back, really good. Right? So on the way there, it's a mid-morning flight, and we're kind of getting into wine a little bit, right? So we drink 4 glasses of wine on the flight to Vegas, right? I hand our flight attendant 4 of these. These are kudos for Southwest Airlines. They encourage all of their frequent travelers. I'm a high volume traveler. For me to identify people who are going above and beyond the call of their job at Southwest, and I hand them a kudo. And then on the back of it, there's a code, and they get money, prizes. It's a big deal at Southwest, right? God bless her. After the 4th one in her hand, she comes back down the aisle, and she's like, Mr. Knecht, how are you and your wife doing good? I'm like, yeah, fine. I got 2 glasses of wine. We're in a good mood. We're heading there, right? She's like, I just want to let you know you haven't paid for any of your drinks, but you say I'm doing a rock star job, and I really appreciate that. So thank you very much. I'm going to get a bonus this quarter. So a little bit of design and usability there. So, all right, to kind of frame today, and obviously that's a joke, but we're going to carry that through into reality. And so a lot of things that have been going on here. And how many of you saw me spoke at this RUP conference about 2 or 3 months ago? Okay, so I've spoke to the group before. I'm doing the same exact presentation today, so you might want to leave at this time. Budget was low, and I'm just like, we're going to do the same slides. No, what we're going to do today is really that presentation was more, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on in your world, and it's going on in everybody's world. Don't feel like it's only happening in the association space. It's happening everywhere. We're just going to talk about it. But what we're really going to get into today is the how, because many of you might be sitting here and saying, stop telling me to be innovative or to do things or to be creative and do all that stuff. And you're like, give me the tools on how to get there, right? Help me get to that point where I can start to do this in baby steps. No one's going to Elon Musk and build a rocket and have it land back on a podium, right? No one needs to do that. You can do innovation in very small incremental steps. And so my goal here today is to kind of help you, guide you through a process that you can then take back to your teams and execute on even the smallest thing, and then hopefully carry that forward, all right? So that's my partnership with everybody in the room here today. I did not fly all the way out here to just speak for 40 minutes and you guys are like, whatever, right? I need a commitment from you, and you're going to get a commitment from me that we're both going to try really hard here to take a nugget of knowledge and take it back to our teams and be better at that, okay? So that's the spirit. In front of everybody, you should have a document that looks like this. If you don't, let me know. We have some extra copies. I tried to pass them out. So this, you're going to actually be walking and working along with me through this process as we go through design thinking. Okay? Design thinking I did not come up with. I'm reproducing this all from Stanford University. It's an old methodology that is kind of being heavily used now and rebranded and talked about a lot. But it's really just a problem solving or an opportunity execution matrix, and we're going to go through it together with specific examples, and then I'm going to drive into just one of them because we only have about 45 minutes. If at any point in time you really want to deep dive on this, Stanford Design School does this very frequently on the weekends. It's about 22 grand for 2.5 days. You can sign up, go online, real intensive, really, really knowledgeable. You feel really good coming out of it. It's like train the trainer. You can go back and take all that knowledge and carry it forward. I'm not a certified trainer by no means. I'm just going to walk you through how I have used it and seen success with this across all types of businesses. All right? All right. So, little background as to why maybe I have some insights on this. Joey Knecht, chief intern at Proteus. I say that in a very good way. I've been with the firm 17 years, and I started in the firm as an intern. I'm now CEO. We operate all across the country, built hundreds of products for corporations and associations, have a real good knowledge of how to package things up, take people through the misdirection. A lot of complaining over here, but the problem is here. Since we're in a medical type of environment, I'm sure everybody here knows the difference between Eastern medicine and Western medicine, like covering up the symptoms and then solving the real core symptoms, right? You guys know the difference of kind of the philosophies of Eastern and Western medicine. So think about that here. We're actually really trying to solve the real problems. In your association, a lot of times you're going to have loud people making you feel like this might be the problem or the opportunity, when in reality it's probably something greatly different. And so you don't want to rely on them to navigate your business forward. What we're going to talk today a little bit about, obviously, is design thinking. I have extensive research and background in lean startup, which is just taking the same principles and applying it to high growth companies. And I've built 3 companies myself, or founded 3 companies, and I'm also invested in a ton of them and mentor tons of folks in this space. So I have a pretty good grasp of that. And then I call it street design. Street design is kind of, I say the word gangster all the time in our office, because you just got to have street smarts. You got to have kind of gut sense of what you're feeling and what's going on there. So I try to apply that in a lot of these things, and I encourage you to do that. Everything cannot be taught in a way that you're going to know everything. So let's get into it. How many of you are familiar with design thinking as a concept? Okay, that's pretty good. That's more than usual. So design thinking, to be candid, is not new. So this isn't a sham wow, brand new, like Joey's got something cool, he's going to bring it in here, and no one's ever used it or anything like that. It's a very, very proven methodology used for innovation and problem solving. And I think that's the key here, is you can use this tool to create opportunities in your organization, whether that's innovation or things that you're trying to capture and generate new revenue, or stop your slide or create whatever. It also can be for inefficiencies. And I'm sure, like many of you here, our businesses have inefficiencies, many of our clients do. So you can use these philosophies really across anything you want. So I'll give everybody a second to digest that a little bit. But really the goal of design thinking is stop thinking that you have the answer or you have the idea. It's very, very driven by your customer and empathy and understanding how they feel as they're using your product or service or challenge that is going on within your organization. And we're going to probe a little bit deep into some of these things because it really, really resonates. And hopefully you get a couple of aha moments of like, I didn't think of it that way, okay? And I'm going to go through quite a few examples, real world, because I think that resonates with everybody. We can go textbook, but then real world. So we're going to go through each one, and I'll walk through them now, but I have them in front of you, and so I'm going to ask you, as we go to each slide, I want you to digest the first 1 or 2 paragraphs for each one as we progress, because I need you to really start to digest and understand this, because if we keep going, we're going to lose you. So before we do that, why should you care? So by raise of hands, whose association is perfectly at where they want it to be? Okay, so I feel like there's some opportunity here. Are any of, I feel like it, just got weird. All right, how many of you want to cut your costs? Okay. A good, I'd say about 20% in a quick gangster math. How many of you have budgeted growth this year? Okay. How many feel like you're going to miss your numbers this year? Be honest. Okay. Now, so that's the exciting part about this, is you're able to use these philosophies to take your business, save your business, scale your business. Now, I know you guys are dealing with a lot of challenges with the association space, and I have some examples specifically to it. So we're going to drive into those because they probably resonate a little more than building rockets. All right? Sorry. Design thinking steps. Okay, and we're going to send this out to you, and it's also the handout I gave you has all of these steps in it. We're going to dive into each one of these because each one is mission critical to the overall success of your enterprise, right? Now, I'm going to frame it here a little bit for you, is don't think you have to, somebody mentioned it earlier, and I thought it was very eloquently said, is you don't have to change the world in a day, right? What we're talking about is identifying one thing you'd like to improve, change, or grow within your organization. And it can be really, really small. We're looking for minor victories here. As you guys roll out stuff, I've been involved in so many product rollouts and initiatives. Like, you got to have quick wins, right? You got to get your team to believe in what you're doing. So you as a leader, you need to kind of identify some of those low-hanging fruits and attack them with this process. I'm going to go through it all, don't worry. And the nice thing about this is even if you're like, this is the most worst presentation I've ever been involved with, you can go to Stanford at that URL and get all the information and insights and everything. So I'm giving you my version of it, of how it works in the space that I've been dealing with, mostly technology, but also scaling businesses, okay? So there's a lot of resources to help you once you're out of here to kind of help take you to the next level. So we're gonna go through. But the first one on the board there, empathize, and I'm gonna summarize, and we're gonna go through each one. I'm gonna have you read a little bit, and then we're gonna digest and talk about it, okay? So the first one on the board, just quickly, is empathize. And it says, seek to understand and not be judgmental. We're going to really dive into that because this is more like observing, okay? That's how you're going to find opportunities. It's talking to your customers. It's going out in the space, being out there. We're going to talk about it. Defining what this is kind of after you think you've found your problem or your opportunity, you got to kind of ratchet that down to kind of a measurable, smart, attainable kind of vision for it, because then you're going to ideate against that, okay? So you don't have an answer yet. What you know is that you're seeing a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to do this. See this? Can everybody see that back there? For me, kicking. I have boots on. All right? Right? So boots, kick. I'm going to tell you what that means in a moment, and I hope you guys all figure it out before I get there. Okay? So ideate. This means something, and made the guy a couple $100 million. All right? Ideate. Then you're going to prototype, and you're actually going to prototype today. So everybody here, I know you get continuing education credits. Everybody today will become a prototyping engineer certified by a diploma delivered by me, which is absolutely worth nothing and isn't used anywhere, okay? But everybody thinks they can't prototype. We're going to prove everybody wrong here today. So when you go home to your lovely family, on the fridge, you can put your prototype up there, and you're going to be a champion of the day, all right? And then we're going to get into testing, which is how do you make that a reality. So first on the docket, empathize. All right. So everybody's got their booklets in front of them. Take a minute or two to read, empathize, and how that relates to you. Because personally, this journey has to happen with you and your organization. I can only give you a framework here. I need you to kind of understand what empathize is in your world and get a feeling for that. And then we're going to kind of go through some fun things related to that. And it's probably one of the most toughest things to do. Yeah, you bet, man. Oh, all right, good. Thank you. Yeah, so this is one of the hardest things for anybody, especially as a leadership or within companies I see, is everybody has a solution. Everybody jumps to the solution. Everybody has a problem and everybody comes up with the solution right away. But really what we're getting at, design thinking here, the real core of design thinking, right, is empathizing with the users, understanding their ecosystem of how they do it. So I'm 40 years old, and I grew up in Queens, Long Island, okay? When I was a kid, I had a beeper, right? And I had a Motorola StarTAC. Anybody else in here have a Motorola StarTAC, right? Who didn't? Badass phone, right? Really good phone, right? So Motorola StarTAC, when you first got cell phones, right, you basically could use the phone, but when somebody was your friend, they're like, what's your phone number? And you had to program them into your StarTAC. You needed a mechanical engineering degree to add that, right? Because you had to take the phone off your head, put in a couple of codes, take it to another screen and everything, right? What do you think that meant? This is Steve Jobs here. What really do you think happened there? This is really, really deep stuff. This is what empathy really is related to designing your own company and challenging a problem, okay? What they found out is when they were using their phones and they tried to add that person as a contact to their phone, they got really frustrated, right? How many in here get frustrated when they can't use their phone, right? Well, what's the next step after frustration? They started to do the research and people felt dumb. And so they didn't want to use their phones. And they were trying to look for other solutions besides it. Do you see what really was going on there with their phones? Is because it was frustrating to use it. They kept getting mad, but then they saw other people who were able to do it and they felt dumb that they couldn't consume that, right? That's a huge opportunity. Everybody knows what happened after that. Screens, touch, real quick, easy, right? So understanding the customers, understanding what their needs are, huge, huge opportunity. So I'll apply this to a completely different paradigm, the military, right? So many of you have watched with a lot of the engagements and theaters we're in that we now have drones, right? Little pocket drones that when in field, they can pull out the drone, throw it, and it can fly for about 20 minutes with a camera and take surveillance so that they can know where there's enemy combatants and those types of things, right? That drone costs about $35,000, and the operating system and running it costs about $250,000. So everybody here is like, well, that's not bad comparative to a plane that costs a couple billion per jet, right? But let's really get into the understanding of what's going on. What happens a lot of the time when they fly the drone is it crash lands, okay? So they're in the field, they throw it, flies, they find where the enemy combatants are, and it crashes, and it breaks a wing, right? Each wing costs $8,000, right? So the soldiers knew that because every time they were going back to Sarge, when they come back from their deployment, they're like, we broke a wing on it, and they're like, that's another $8,000. And so they're like, well, maybe we shouldn't throw the thing anymore, right? Can you imagine that? You're in battle, and now you're worried about $8,000, right? Do you understand how this works? Empathizing, right? So they asked the soldiers, well, what can we do about this? And they're like, there's got to be a better way. And about 3 weeks ago, a bunch of soldiers just won a huge award, infantrymen. They just got a huge award because they figured out how to take with them a 3-pound 3D printer that prints a wing, and it costs $8 to print the wing. And now they're printing the entire plane besides a few mechanical parts that are all interchangeable with a GoPro camera on it. And now they got the total cost of the drone less than an iPhone, $490. They now have a drone that they can throw, crash land, reprint, throw, crash land, reprint, right? But what drove that was empathizing with the soldiers and understanding what they felt like using the product and in the field, right? Corporate would never get that because they're not observing what's going on in the opportunity, right? Huge, huge difference. So I encourage you, as we go through this process, these are kind of hints and tricks related to that. Okay, another one, and then we'll move on to the next step, is Oral-B. So everybody who here uses a power toothbrush? Yeah, good. They're very nice. So it's hard to get excited about toothbrush. Is anybody from the dentistry organ group? Ooh. Well, that could have been a humdinger. That would have been a 0 on my promoter score there. Okay, so nobody here will freely talk about Oral-B. So Oral-B, corporate, they got all excited because the new version of Oral-B, whatever, razor thing is coming out. And they're getting all excited about it. Does anybody want to guess what the top 2 features were in the Oral-B, the new one that was coming out? Anybody got an idea? No? Okay. The number 1 thing that your new toothbrush was going to do for you in the morning is play music. It was going to integrate with your iTunes account and play music as you brush your teeth. Pretty cool shit, right? Right? Yeah. The second thing is it's actually going to track how you brush. So you can look at it on a computer screen when you're a real big loser and look at how you're brushing. Okay? Just wanted to check. Nobody from the dental group here. Good. That's what they had in their product roadmap, and that was going to be in the new version of your Oral-B device. Literally, that was on the roadmap. That was the number 1 and number 2 feature coming out. And then somebody said, why don't we go watch people brush their teeth and ask them, is that what they want? Get ready for this. Definitely not playing music. They said, it's a pain in the ass to charge this thing, so can you improve how this thing charges? Okay, sounds good. And they said it's a real pain to reorder heads. If everybody has them, the heads, and they're kind of a pain in the butt, right? So you got to order new heads. And they said, that's it. Those are the number one and number two things based on talking to their customers and watching them related to that. Can you imagine the difference in that? That's like not even close, right? And it's because they weren't really empathizing with the people who were using the toothbrush. I think everybody's getting the trend here of where I'm going. So these are cliff notes: observe, engage, watch, and listen. When my wife asked me about this, she's like, Joe, sometimes this is so techy. I say to my wife, just do what you do when you're sitting in the airport with me and just watch others, because that's what she does, right? And I think everybody does here too. And everybody's like, no, I don't do that. Give me a break. Be honest. This is a candid room here. Thank you, Jamie. Candid room. Thank you. All right. I gave a hint earlier about this. Yep, the kick. Does anybody know what that is? Okay. It's a little hard. Okay. The automotive industry, they were looking for what could be their next great invention. So they were working with lots of mothers and fathers. And they said, well, what can we do to make your lives better? And they're all coming up with this, like that, playing music, all this shenanigans, all this stuff. And they said, well, it's a real pain in the butt when we go grocery shopping with the kids, or getting into the car. I can't get the trunk open anytime. And all you guys do is give me a key fob with a big button that says trunk. And one of the people they were interviewing and watching said, what's the dealio with this? And the lady said, well, here's the deal. The best interface for me is no interface. And they were like, what? And she said, the best interface for me is no interface. They're like, well, what does that mean? She's like, well, can't the car just know I'm there and open the trunk? And it's now we're going to get to ideation, and no idea is a bad idea. See, you can laugh, but no idea is a bad idea. But you all now know what that does. Is near field, you get to your car, the trunk opens, all that happens, right? Ideation, understanding from her perspective, okay? All right, so that's empathize. Big, big piece there. Define. All right, on your cheat sheets, read define, because this is kind of where the rubber hits the road a little bit. Glad everybody's following along. Yeah, you got to flip it over. I went cheap printing at Kinko's, so I apologize. Really went cheap printing because I was flying and it was in my carry-on. So define. This is now after you've watched and you gawked and you stalked and you did all the things you do to figure out what your customers' needs and wants are and where the opportunities might be in this space. This is where you kind of have to narrow down your energy, because you might see a lot of problems in your organization. You might see a lot of opportunities in your organization. This step, you're going to have to take that and kind of narrow it down so that you can do actionable insights from here on out. Now this part is a little hard, and this is where leadership has to really get involved, and you might already know which ones are the high priority, but you have to basically help define the process and get it tighter, okay? So this is really, really a tough game, because what happens here is you have to kind of make the objective big enough that you can be creative around it, but small enough that you're not saying, let's boil the ocean. We got to figure out how to boil a pot of water. Does that make sense? So there's a balance there that it has to generate enough opportunity, but it also can't be like, we want to increase sales by $700 million and you guys are a $4 million group right now, right? Or we want to reduce costs by this or anything like that. It's really probably more related to an experience that you guys are providing and how we want to improve that experience and then narrow the energy for ideas around that experience, okay? So it's primarily driven by your users. Again, remember, you've been watching them, understanding them. This is kind of like earlier Sandy was talking about web usability and how you use a website. What we're talking about here is how people are actually engaging with your organization. So how are members engaging with you guys? What do members want? Do you really have candid conversations as an executive director? Like in my company, almost every meeting we have, at the end of it, everybody at the table I say, sir, I give this meeting a 9. What do you give this meeting? And if he does anything less than 9, I say, where did we let you down? What feedback do we need to make this a better meeting? Internally, right? So imagine if you had that level of candid relationships with your actual members to generate ideas, to facilitate opportunities, okay? That's what we're talking about here. That's how you get them, and then this is how you kind of narrow that down with them to really get a focused opportunity for you, okay? It's harder than it sounds, I know, but you gotta push for it, okay? So this is the definition phase, and bring clarity and focus to that overall, okay? A lot of the times it's called point of view. So I've been talking very technical here, but I'm gonna give everybody a URL that might fit this group a little bit more than the world I come from. For design thinking, this one seems to resonate with a lot of folks. You can write down reinventingicecream.com. And reinventingicecream.com is basically an organization you can join to help design think ice cream and the future of ice cream. And you make ice cream and you eat ice cream and you tell them about ice cream. That usually resonates really well with everybody. So I encourage you to do that. It's not my deal. I just that didn't go over as well as I thought. I thought clearly ice cream is not a big thing here in Chicago. Understandable. All right, tough crowd. All right, so define. So I think everybody gets. Yeah, really. Geez, ice cream. Who doesn't like ice cream? Mikey likes it. So defining. So it's again taking the needs, bringing it down, making it tighter. We'll come back. Next one, ideate. And this one I'm going to drive into really deep at the end because this is where the failure point typically happens with an organization. Ideation is where typically the strong people in the, well, not strong, but strong, how do we say this in an environment like this? The kind of the people who try to run every meeting that you're in. They're going to try to demand this meeting and kind of block and do all sorts of tactics to really destroy this kind of innovation for you. And so I'm going to talk about tactics on how to combat that because this is really where it usually falls apart. As you guys get together in this ideation session, and then this is usually where the train goes off the tracks. And so ideation here, the main thing here is, and we'll go into this a little bit more in detail, is that there is no bad ideas, and you really should steal other ideas. So is everybody familiar with R&D? What does that stand for? Research and development, that's correct. In innovation, it's called rip off and duplicate, is really what R&D is. And it's highly encouraged. You should really look at how others are doing things and rip off and duplicate it. So in the ideation phase, it's highly encouraged to basically take other people's ideas and then add to it or subtract things and basically aggregate all of those ideas. There is no bad idea. Again, remember the kick, right? You got it might sound ridiculous. That woman at the beginning said, I just want the car to know that the door should open. I'm sure somebody laughed in the room, right? And they're like, whoa, that's creepy, right? But in reality, it actually ended the solution and got the solution to where it needed to be. We'll come back to ideate, but that's a main piece of ideation is making sure that you do not limit the ideation itself. You let the team rock and roll and come up with anything and everything as long as it's related to your defined scope of what you're going after. They can't just come up with random things, but keep them in the wheelhouse, okay? Make sense for everybody? Any questions so far? I'll pause for questions before we dig deep. Everybody? All right. All right, prototype. Okay. So this is where it gets real interesting because this is where a lot of people get scared. So what I'm going to have everybody do is on the back of your paper here, okay, the white space, I want you to draw a stick figure of yourself. And you have a minute or two to do that. A really nice stick figure of yourself. I will partake via the whiteboard. There is something, though, that I'll mention as we go through this journey. If many of you were with me the last time I spoke, I was in the process of moving with my wife. We have a ranch south of Lincoln. My wife's into horses. And we moved to downtown Omaha. And so since the last presentation, I had to run around to get my lease signed during the last event that I spoke at. And We've been living in a 500 square foot apartment with a 70-pound wine runner with no furniture. And so if you're thinking, my stick figure is a little bit heavier during this meeting than it was the last meeting, because I've been eating out that much since the last meeting. So I'm just in full candor, just letting everybody know. Again, tough crowd today, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, folks. I won't let us die. I won't let us die. This is an easy one. All right, so everybody hold up your stick figure now. Look at you guys. Look at you guys and gals. Awesome. All right, now you know how to prototype. That's it. That's really it. I just love this. I love this one because everybody's like, we can't make stuff. I'm like, bullshit, you can make stuff. You just made something. That's it. 101. So the whole point of prototyping is taking something that is kind of complex and literally become a kid, right? And so if you go through the actual design school, Stanford Design School process, you literally use crayons, scissors, paper, tape. You literally fake make everything. It's kind of fun, and that's why I encourage you when you do it with your teams. It's a great team building exercise, and it's ideation and innovation within your firm or problem solving. It's a whole lot of fun. We do it in our company. Clients do it. It's a lot of fun, and I really, really encourage it. So what I'm trying to do there is break down the misguided environment that you guys cannot prototype, okay? Clearly that's a simple prototype, but that's all you need at the beginning when you're prototyping, okay? That's really all you need. So I'll tie that in for you guys. So a group I'm working with has about, I'd say 450,000 members in their association, okay? Nationwide. Power group, got a lot of money coming through it, but they're declining a lot. They're pretty nervous. It's in the equine space, horses, okay? So my wife, as I aforementioned, is a very competitive reiner. If you're not familiar with reining is where horses run and they do a pattern and then they go really fast and then they like slide. Their butt goes down. This is how much I know about horses. I know I'm a New Yorker, it's okay, right? So they do that, okay? So she's a big reiner, really, really successful, finished 4th in the world 2 years ago, those types of things. Didn't know anything about the sport, right? Zero about the sport. So I started going to horse shows. And I said, honey, I really don't know what I'm doing. I really just clean the stalls and feed it water. I'm a maintenance man for the horse operation, basically. As my wife says, I'm ranch manager with no pay. But the point is we started going to a lot of horse shows. And the average horse show starts on a Thursday. Okay. I don't know if there's a glaring concern there as much as mine is, but I'm a workaholic and I travel a lot. And the horse shows are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? 4 days. Now, we have no kids, but many of you have kids, and I see a parallel in the baseball world out here. Yeah, like, it's ridiculous. Like, the kids going to the major leagues. They're not. Just give it up. Just give it up. I mean, seriously. That Cubs game, that Cubs movie with the kid who throws real fast, that doesn't happen, folks. But the point here is why is the decline going down so much in our association? Well, maybe it's because I had to take 32 days of time to do my wife's horse stuff. And I'm a very giving individual to make that happen. And on top of that, it's not cheap, just like baseball, right? You got hotel rooms, food, and all of this stuff, right? So the industry is really having a trouble because the overall cost of doing things is really expensive and takes a tremendous amount of time. Maybe this resonates with folks here. So it's interesting. So of course, with my tech hat on, I'm like, there's got to be a better way, right? And so I said, well, what about virtual horse shows, right? Right. Everybody, right, that's ridiculous. But wait, there's more. This is where it gets really ridiculous. Is I did a crazy thing, and at the horse shows, I started talking to parents and their kids. And I said, how do you like this horse world? And they're like, well, we love it, but we totally would do it more, but it's pretty expensive to come to a horse show, and Becky and the kids, a lot of stuff. I said, just big picture question. If like all the kids registered on like a Tuesday, and then like on a Friday, they all get an email with a badge that they have to put on their horse, and then they videotape it with their iPhone, and we know the numbers, so they can't do it till before that. They have 2 days to actually videotape their ride, then submit it online, and then it's like a bracket system, and we can have hundreds of thousands of kids riding horses, and then that drives way more traffic to your horse shows. And they're like, well, no, wait, that doesn't make any sense. If you do that, the kids aren't going to come to the horse shows. I said, no. What we're actually doing is getting it so a whole lot more kids come to your shows. Because now they can actually compete at home 10 times during the summer and still go to the 2 shows. So your overall dollar cha-ching value to that kid, lifetime value of that kid, just went through the roof, right? So you got to think in your own world those types of opportunities, right? There's a ton of them out there. You just need to be able to approach it a little bit differently than you are today and brainstorm around that, okay? So just giving you guys some ideas. So the prototype for that, you might say, how did it start? Well, it started out with something like this, a stick figure. And then we ran the first competition using a Google form. How many here are familiar with Google Forms? Okay, you don't need to be an engineer to do that. It took us a whopping 17.5 minutes to build the first version of the product. And we had people take videos of their kids riding the horse, submit it to DA, score them, first version done, right? Prototype, in the bank, feel good about it, think we're on to something, okay? I'm trying to help you connect the dots a little bit. It's a simple example of how this can be done in your world. You need to look at all of the services that you're doing and how can you kind of change the way you look at the opportunities within your business. And so that's the prototype, okay? Questions on prototyping? No? Okay. Test. Okay. Now this is kind of the cousin of prototyping, okay? And frequently in design thinking world, if you look this up, there's going to be a lot of commonality between these two because they are similar. Testing is when you kind of take it more to market and you're actually asking for feedback from your users. So how many of you here have advisory groups within your association? Okay. Not many. I thought there would be more. Okay. Would you say that the average advisory group is stacked? Meaning people who are positive about your organization in general, and that's why they were recruited to be on your advisory group. So, yeah. What we see is it's typically way stacked, meaning the people that you're getting feedback from on new ideas that you're wanting to do are already in your camp and are pretty much going to be nice to you, and whatever you come up with, they're going to agree with because of their friendship with you and their kind of loyalty to you because of your knowledge and your friendship over time. And I heard earlier today quite a bit that the boards are problematic for associations. And I understand that. I'm the chairman of the Technology Association of Nebraska. I founded the technology group and I'm the chairman of it. I have a board. I have a board in my own company. And I really kind of came over that hurdle because if I really want our firm to get to the next level, you need to bring in people who are going to be critical of what you're doing and challenging you to move forward. So there's another philosophy I'm going to throw out here. They're called CABs. Is anybody familiar with the word CAB? C-A-B? Okay, it's a little bit of an industry term, but they're called customer advisory boards, right? And so you might be running a customer advisory board now, but I challenge you that you're probably not running it to the full extent that you should be. A CAB is a very disciplined approach on how to garner feedback from your customer base, from a swath of folks at different revenue levels. This is in corporate, obviously you can figure out metrics on your own, but how much money they spend with you. So if it's donors, you have a donor scale from whales to raccoons, right? Like that whole range there, right? If it's how long they've been a member, how short they've been a member, other archetypes you can use to create that customer advisory group. But the number one thing about that advisory group is a complete candid ecosystem, meaning that you want the actual group to have a lot of people that have strong voices of anti what's going on. I know you're like, that sounds ridiculous, but that's really what you need on your groups. That's how you're going to create change within the organization. If everybody likes everything you're doing, get them off your board. Your board should no way agree with everything that you're saying. You know, in goal setting and everything like that, great companies achieve only 80% of their goals. Most really get in that 60 to 70% zone, right? Same thing with your customer advisory. Do not stack the deck because your innovation will go way down and your opportunities will go way down. Make sense? Any questions on testing? Yeah. All right, in review, and then we're going to go into the ideate one first, or not first, sorry, ideate last. Okay? So we talked about empathizing, right? Understanding the customer, understanding their challenges, really, really getting to know them. And I'll pause for a second if people want to take photos of that. Again, proven methodology. I encourage you to look it up. Define, taking what you found in the opportunities, narrowing those down, right? Narrowing that down to some sort of an actionable action. Remember, you don't have to boil the ocean in a day. You boil a pot of water, and you can loop through this 100 times, right? So in my company, we do this quarterly, okay? So I'll give you a fun little story related to this. So we're kind of an innovation group. I took 40 of us to Boulder 2 weeks ago to hike a mountain, right? So we hop on the bus Friday. It's an 8-hour drive from Omaha to Boulder. We climb a mountain. We hop on the bus. We come back, right? Really good team building event. Kick ass, right? Kick ass. Really good time. Well, you might imagine, I got no energy, as you can see. But when we're on the bus, we're like, well, we got to create a company on the way, right? Because it's 8 hours. You can easily create a company in 8 hours. You need about an hour to create a company, and that was. So we did. So the company we created on the way out, and we really do think it has some viability. And this has nothing to do with anything we're talking about here, but I'm going to tell it to you, okay? So we might need investors. So work with me here. You got to let me get through it a little bit. You'll get to the aha. Okay, so we're driving on our bus, and I see this pickup truck try to get into our lane on our bus. Kind of a real crappy pickup truck. Dented, real shoddy, real shoddy. This guy doesn't take care of his stuff. And he has a thing on it that says, playground maintenance. Playground maintenance. I'm like, what does that mean, playground maintenance? I've never seen a playground maintenance guy, especially in a crappy truck, right? Which you might think, what the hell is he doing? Why does he keep bringing up this truck? Well, I think of that as an opportunity, because when you see a crappy truck, that means his customer service, his appeal to his customers, everything probably match his truck. Yes, see, think the other direction. Work with me here. So, we then do a little research on playground maintenance in America. We had Wi-Fi on the bus, if you're wondering. I paid extra for it, you can guess. So, we do research and we find out playground maintenance in large cities is done by sporadic people. There is no real dominant player in playground maintenance in the country. Yes, exactly. Very, very exciting opportunity. That's what we call fragmented, right? Which means you can come in and scoop up 100 of them really quickly and dominate the space, inject technology, do all sorts of things, and then cut deals with all the playground companies to resell their product and do all maintenance for them, right? So we went from a truck cutting us off on our bus to how we can build a scalable playground-based services company, right, in the span of 8 hours, right? And we kind of prototyped and we had a lot of fun with that. So don't think this is a huge, huge undertaking. Just have a little fun with it, enjoy it, and carry forward, all right? So that's the summary of the prototyping and then testing. All right. Last but not least, we're going to drive into ideate, the deeper dive, because this is where your road is going to get cut off. I don't know how much time I have, so I'm just checking. Perfect. I have 4 more hours. That's going to be a real deep dive. All right. I did notice there must be a really nice clip art group that has these kind of light bulbs on strings, because somebody else had that. I think Sandy did. Yeah, Sandy, it's a licensing thing. Do I owe you money or you me? I don't know. We gotta figure that out. Is there a lawyer in the building? All right. So, ideate, frame the problem. We talked about this. So this is the challenge. All right, another light bulb, just to really hit that home. Okay. So as I said, as you as an organization, the number one thing I need you to take away is get a stakeholder group of your people, and you as the leader need to kind of seed it a little bit with what you think maybe an opportunity is for your organization. And obviously, hopefully you observed that happening for real. You've defined that a little bit. You've done the first 2 steps successfully, right? And now this is where you want the greater good of your team to get involved. Because anything that's going to be successful culturally within your group and successfully just from a business perspective is getting the buy-in and helping you take that from 0 to 100. So when you have this meeting, so the perfect person to kill this meeting, and I'm sorry if there are any of you in this room, is the COO. So is anybody a COO here? Yeah, there you go. And I'm not saying you're a bad man. I love COOs. But COOs instantly go to, how the freak are we going to do that? That is ridiculous. Like, kill that idea. Like, that's ridiculous. So COOs are always naysayers. And then probably number two right there is their CIO and CTO. They're like, we don't have any software to do that. That's impossible. Like, do you know how much that would cost? Because somebody in the room is going to say, can't we check out like I do on Amazon? And then the IT guy's going to be like, that's ridiculous. Do you know how much money Amazon has? And you're like, no, I don't get it. And then I'm sure you've all heard this. This is like verbatim. I could role play the entire meeting, right? Like, we have no budget. I'll let you noodle on that one a little bit. So what I'm saying is there are more people in that meeting that are going to want to kill the meeting than have it to become successful. So I encourage what I just did, open the meeting up with that. Set and frame the meeting. Be like, I understand this might be uncomfortable for some of you in the room, but let me talk to you about what we're trying to do. We're really trying to we agree that our passion is taking our organization to the next level. And this is where I challenge you guys as the leaders of the organization. People are talking about, you might get fired. If you get fired, okay, if any of you get fired in this room because you were innovatively taking your group to the next level and the board fired you, I'm not in this space a whole lot, but I feel like you get hired pretty quickly at another opportunity, right? I really feel that way, right? So frame it in a way that you know this might be uncomfortable. And I really understand that you're going to try to get to how do we do this and what's the solution. That's not the point of ideation. Ideation is stepping outside of your comfort area, and coming up with ideas about what you've observed and what the defined goal that you guys are trying to achieve. And it can be absolutely crazy, right? It doesn't matter, because someone might hear that and say, that's crazy, but if we just took 10% of that idea and did it with this other 10%, it's like building a recipe. Anybody here like apple pie? Okay. I absolutely love apple pie, right? This has nothing to do with the presentation. I just wanted to know who loved apple pie. But I love it. I love apple pie, and why I love apple pie, I really have no idea. But I love apple pie, and my wife makes really good apple pie, and I get it like twice a year, maybe my birthday and Christmas, right? And I love it, and I eat too much of it, get sick. It's like a routine. I get it, right? But I love apple pie, but it's a recipe, right? And so how many of you here watch Shark Tank? Okay. So every baked good that's been on Shark Tank, right, has gone through this process. Baking an apple pie, and they make 10 and they give them to their friends, and their friends are like, hey, you know, this is pretty badass apple pie. And they're like, thanks, right? And they're like, can I buy some? And they're like, yeah, cool. And then they put it in another oven, and they bake as much as they possibly can within their house, right? And then they get a little commercial kitchen, and then they're baking now 100 pies a day, and then they get to 1,000 pies. But at some point in time, they got to go commercial, right? They got to get to where they can produce 10,000 pies a day. That's why they're on the show, okay? Just giving you that's the jumps that they're making. I'm asking you to figure out how to bake one apple pie here, not go on Shark Tank, okay? I'm asking you to challenge yourself to build a simple recipe based on what I have here, and take that into a meeting and say, I feel like our customer service could be better. Let's digest and talk about that. Let's listen in on 5 calls. Let's do things to basically try to target the problem and come up with ideas around that. It can be some massive low-hanging fruit, okay? Just trust me on this, massive low-hanging fruit. It does not mean you need a new association management system. You might, I don't know. But more than likely, it might be adding a field to your association management system, or getting a better report, or something like that. There's incremental innovation, okay? Don't get so caught up in that you got to transform the whole biz in a day. Get going, and you'll get there to the next step. So frame the problem. What problem are we trying to solve? Again, keeping your group in order. Broad but narrow. I know that's kind of contrarian, but broad but narrow. And then ultimate impact, which means make sure it's actually going to grow the organization, whether that's financially, whatever core metrics you're going against to get that. Okay, second piece of this, and I can send this to everybody. This is actually Charlie here has been in our offices. These things hang. There's 2 slides here. These all hang in all of our meeting rooms, because there's a lot of ideation going on and a lot of brainstorming, and we have a very candid as one of our kind of philosophies. We're actually a client of Jamie and Charlie's WorkXO. Our culture is really innovative. We do jump starts every day. We're very, very much into moving toward a very futuristic organization and really creating a positive ecosystem for growth, okay? So these things hang in our conference rooms as we're ideating things. And these are kind of like the rules of engagement that you can use with your team. So I said you're going to prep them, and then you're going to talk about deferred judgment, right? People are going to say that's stupid, wrong, blah, blah, blah. Deferred judgment. Encourage wild ideas. Straight up encourage it. I don't know how your bylaws work, but whoever comes up with the best idea or craziest idea, give them $20 or a Starbucks gift certificate, right? Or a kudo, like a Southwest drink ticket or something like that, right? Build on the ideas others are doing. This is the rip off and duplicate kind of thing, because a lot of it is somebody saying something and then building off of that. So use that to your advantage, and most importantly, encourage it, right? You guys remember that old FedEx commercial where the guy was like, I think it was, yeah, there's a guy who's like, hey boss, I think we should cut, we could save $10,000 a month in shipping if we just cut our shipper and move to FedEx. And the CEO's like, yeah, whatever. And then the other guy goes, hey boss, if we move to FedEx, we could cut our costs by $10,000 a month. And the CEO's like, freaking great idea. And the first guy's like, what the hell? I said the same thing. And he's like, you didn't go like this. And the cutting was really what sold me on that. Right? I mean, you guys have been in enough meetings. We can all placate all day long. These meetings are crazy, right? You got people like trying to kill the business. Who knows what's going on, right? You just got to manage them. You're a leader, manage them. That's what it's all about. You're paid the bucks to manage them. So stay focused on the topic. Try to keep the discussion on target. That's the whole point. The more you can be candid about the engagement, about what your vision is. And I was thinking about this earlier because there was some discussion about, as a leader in your organization, how can you push for innovation to happen with your board and everything. This is how I fundamentally feel, and maybe this gets a little bit off topic, but this is how I fundamentally feel. I'm extremely passionate about my organization. I protect my employees to the ground. I will die for them, basically, to protect our company and what we do, okay? I feel like, and my hope is, that that's how you are about your organization. You feel that level of compassion and energy to say, we can do better, we can be better at what we're doing, and you take it almost in a personal level where you're like, we can be better. And so when we started the meeting and I said, I got the best slot of the day, clearly I don't. I'm right after lunch. Everybody knows that. But the way that I frame it is the best of the day, because how I believe it is how the meeting starts as and people believe it, right? Act like you can be innovative. Stop complaining about it, right? And so whether that's baby step today or baby step tomorrow, I don't know, just do something. Okay? Like, that's what it's all about. You're a leader. And if you're not passionate about your organization, go get another job. I mean, it's America. I traveled the globe. I've sold everywhere. And we have the best country on the planet. You can do whatever you want to do. Leverage your talents. If it's not the right fit, move on. It's great. But man, let's go. So, ideate and brain, continuing here. One conversation at a time. Right? Be visual. Be animated. A little bit of energy in the room goes a long way when you're ideating. Okay? Those types of things. And go for quantity. But the other thing here too is, I've been in a lot of meetings, and I think you guys all have, you gotta time block it. Innovation has a time capsule. And you gotta say, we're gonna do this for 50 minutes, whatever it is, and nip and tuck. Somebody is basically running the meeting, keep you on schedule, nip and tuck, and do it maybe 2 or 3 times. Because you do it, you take a break. I don't know about you guys, I use a product called, I have wax-covered paper in my shower with a pencil in it. And it's for ideas when you're in the shower, because I come up with a lot of ideas in the shower. And their tagline is like, don't let good things go down the drain. So the point there is repetition of time, not doing it all in one power session or taking a half a day and going off-site and sitting for a half a day to come up with something. That's not how it works. It's probably a couple of meetings to kind of come up with a solution and get to the end point. Does it make sense? So take breaks in between it. Don't drive hard, because you won't get there. Okay? All right. And then this is what I talked about at the beginning, middle, and I'll do it again at the end here, is I need you to take action. So this is kind of personal now, again, between me and you as a leader. The number one thing you can do to make yourself look stupid is to start initiatives and don't carry them through. And your team will not believe anything you do from there on out, and you will not be able to rally your troops to go to war. You won't be able to rally anything moving forward, right? So, point of that is when I talked about starting small and having small victories and carrying this forward to more challenging ones and bigger ones, pick something that you feel like you can achieve in the next month and take them through this process. But do it and make a commitment to them to do it. Make a commitment in your leadership. So in my company, our leadership team meets once a week, 1 hour, highly structured. We have a scorecard, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure you all do, right? And we obtain an objective and we make sure that we execute it that week, whatever it is, and we have quarterly goals and all sorts of other stuff. But if we say we're committed to doing it, the leadership team commits orally to everybody. The actual first note I was going to have everybody do here was actually raise their hand and commit to doing something. Because when you say it, you do it. When you think it, you think about it, right? Right? So when you say to yourself, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to go start something small and try to help. And again, it's not all innovation, inefficiency, anything. But make a commitment to do this. And this really is like 101 of leadership. Leadership. This has nothing to do with innovation. Is make a commitment and then act on that damn thing. Or you're never going to get anything to change within your organization. And there's different ways to do that as far as getting the buy-in. There's voting. There's all sorts of, I kind of keep it simple. As we start to get to the point here of what we're going to do at pick and select, we basically, usually the innovation team is, we have 5 on our team right now. We really just talk it out and kind of say, which one do we all think we're going to go with this one, and we're going to now test and validate that and take it to market or do some other things. So we're pretty, we don't have to vote or anything, but some groups prefer more voting. You could use the voting after you come up with the initial idea and then maybe vote to your membership or a smaller group of folks to help kind of push that forward. So, but take action. That's the number one thing. And again, these are all under the ideation concept, because this is the point of failure with most organizations, is they get to this point and then it goes off the tracks and you guys are dead. That's it. Okay. Any questions, applications of this, ideas? Go ahead, ma'am.
Jamie Crowell, I'm with the Urgent Care Association. Wondering if when you're having these and you have new ideas and you decided to move forward with them, are you also talking about what might need to come off the plate to do those things?
Yeah, great.
We have a hard time sunsetting some things in order to do new ones.
Yeah, no, great question. And that's the grow or kill kind of methodology, right? Mm-hmm. And so we face that a lot. But a lot of the ways I like to kind of simplify it is do we believe in the next 3 months, 6 months, or a year this is going to greatly impact the trajectory of our organization? If your leadership team is wishy-washy on that, kill it. Basically kill it. It needs to be super clear that this is a strong opportunity for you. That's how you have to be able to kill them. And that's why there's time constraint too. So we like doing the quarterly. So every quarter, the team figures out what we want to kind of go through this process on. It's a team of 5 of us. It's part of their work schedule. It's not a special project. Stop calling things special projects. We're talking about the future of your organization. Stop calling it special. It's actually the business. So it is your job as a CEO, a COO, and all these other titles to actually move the business forward and drive it forward. So it's not special. That's a real big thing for me. It's not special. How do we continue to grow? It's part of my job is to figure out how we continue to grow. So, and then do it quarterly and hold everybody. And at the end of that quarter, there's basically the go, no go meeting, which is where this is mano a mano. Here's what we're thinking. Here's what do we do from here on out. And then if it's a go, then it's only a go for another quarter, and we do the next steps of validation, maybe more aggressive prototyping, going out and talking to more customers, really trying to validate it even more, and then get some additional feedback, and then a kill, no kill again quarterly. After that second quarter of that, that's it. So the next quarter, you got to get real and say, we're ready to put $500,000 against this to carry this through, right? Or a quarter, whatever the number is. I don't care the dollar amount. But you got to make a commitment from there on out, because then if it doesn't, it becomes a really stupid thing within the organization that you're wasting a lot of time, and people are like, what the hell? It's a pet project, and it becomes really weird. The number one thing you got to do is stay focused and kill the bad and move forward with only strong. And if that means completely hitting the reset button, do it. Like with our team, we expect to kill way more than we want. You should. You should kill 19 out of 20 things you're trying, right? right? So it's okay to kill things. You want, if everything is a yes, 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 that's scary as hell. Like it can't be, right? Or you got a lot of low-hanging fruit problems, right? So great question. You gotta look at it very disciplined, and max is quarterly. We try to do it really almost in real time, because we meet weekly as a leadership team, and we might be doing something, and I'll be like, kill this bad boy. Like, move on. Like, we don't even need to think about it anymore. And the team's like, okay, cool, yeah, sounds good. So you gotta be open and candid about it. So sooner the better, basically. Yes, ma'am.
But that's relative to new products, right? New ideas. So can you take old,
Yeah.
existing, and put them through the same design?
You bet, yeah, old
How
dog, new
often?
tricks,
How-
for sure. Process refinement. So the cool kids now call it digital transformation. Old school, like us, we call it process refinement. So it's your customer care cycle. Everything that you're doing it, you take the same exact process through it. Yeah, most of the innovation we do is actually, for corporations, is actually internal optimization and new products internally. When we say new products, it's not necessarily customer facing, it's transforming how the business operates to become more efficient and scalable, right? And then there are public facing products, clearly. But most of the innovation for you guys can actually happen internally first, proven, validated, then put out front facing. In hospitality, they call it heart of the house and front of the house, if anybody's in the hospitality. You know, heart of the house is kind of you guys internally. Front of the house is when you walk in the door, they say, hello, right? So that kind of world, you can start internally to validate it first, and then take it to the front facing. No, most of it is actually internal first. Yeah, great question, because that's where I try to really focus, because everybody talks about innovation. Innovation doesn't mean only new products to the outside world. Process refinement and internal improvement is probably, if you're hurting for money or struggling, the fastest way you're going to be able to stop stuff and then figure out how you can scale. Because you got to have, what is it, like when you're selling a house, you got to have your house in order before you bring people through it? Well, you better have your house in order, because if you start releasing new things and it creates more customers and more customer support and other things, they go through a crappy experience, you're going to get nowhere. Any good new idea is going to die anyway. So you got to really, really make sure you're prepared for it. So great question. Thanks for clarification, because for me, a lot of it is non-new product. Go ahead, sir.
When you're looking at the empathizing phase, do you ever have a concern about hearing the squeaky wheel instead of maybe what's attacking most of the people? Is there a way to guard against that?
Yeah, so great question. So basically you're saying, is it the squeaky wheel just your 20% of your group that's really loud, telling you kind of what's going on there? That's kind of what I was talking about, a little bit of how you select who you're actually going to be talking to, right? So you want a good swath of the folks to talk to, not only just the large ones. Earlier they were talking about personas within your organization, roles, who are your customers. So there's you guys, there's the members, there's the sponsors, there's, to be candid, and most of you in the ones where the people are traveling a lot, it's their spouse is probably the number one person you have to. So like in our, I was at a conference 2 days ago with the CEO of a very large electric system that we do products for. And everybody knows what's going on with the 2 hurricanes, right? So they're deploying people everywhere, right? And like some of these guys and gals have been on the road 48 days straight, literally 12, 13-hour day. I mean, just manning up, galling up to just make it happen, right? And the CEO wrote letters to each one of them, handwritten to them, and then handwritten to their spouse, right? And he cried as he was reading this to me about his passion for how these people are committed to his organization, right? So when I was talking earlier about being candid, people really, in this process, try to ShamWow and sell new ideas. What I really try to encourage people is get real candid, like real candid, real candid. Like it takes time to get real candid. Real candid is basically saying, sitting down, and I'd really challenge you as directors, you have the time, everybody has the time, right? You decide if you have the time to go to, put on your calendar, can I talk to 4 members a week for 50 weeks? Can I talk to 200 of our members in an authentic, meaningful way about how they feel about our organization, what they like about our organization, what they hate about our organization, what they believe we could do better? And I mean real conversation. Not trying to say, when they say, but, and you're like, no, but we're working on that. Or, shut up. Let them talk. Be real. The more relationships that you can do, and if you do that for 3 years straight in a real, intentful manner, to Jamie's thing earlier about changing the culture of your organization, you can start to see the wheel moving really, really quick because people are starting to believe in your true intent to help transform the organization to the next level because they're believing in you as much as they're believing in themselves. And that's how they help you get to the business to the next level of the association. That's it. I'll get kicked off. All right. Thank you, everybody.